fire and ice, little things like that, may be requested by the client, and it's a super good selling point. So that's it for corporates. Cruise lines. Again, tomorrow we've got John Udry talking about cruise lines. I'm not going to speak as an expert on cruise lines. This is the brief information that I do know about cruise lines. Generally, 3 to 12 months of work for most generic performers. This is if you're going to join a full show. Or if you're going on as a guest spot, which is what John Udry does a lot of, you may get 1 week guest spots, 2 week guest spots. You work exclusively with one agent, usually. They're very good pay. They're sort of your equivalent to your mid-tier corporates, if not a little bit better. Having a 45-minute show gets you a good guest spot. That's normally what is requested of most guest spot performers. Or I've also heard that 3 15-minute spots is also applicable for some guest spot performers. And
is that, sorry, 3 different 15-minute shows?
Yes. There's 3 different 15 minutes. Cruise lines also have huge rebooking potential, because if you get a good word on one cruise line, the rest of the cruise lines want you. So there's a lot of chance of just jumping around from different cruise ships all the time. Now, with cruise work, it's really important that you're a trusted performer, that you have a really good history of working at cruise lines. So, having a strong show is also really important for cruise show work. Now, by a strong show, I mean, it's going to be very difficult as a solo act, if you're not doing an interactive act, to fill 45 minutes of entertainment. If you're just an aerialist, sorry, I'll stop picking on aerialists. If you're just a hand-to-hand duo, you're going to find it super, super difficult to fill 45 minutes. You need to have lots and lots of skills under your belt. I know John especially, he could do 45 minutes of just chatting nonsense and just telling jokes. So him doing juggling and all his tricks on top of that can easily fill a 45-minute show. So where I say that juggling, they're more applicable to this sort of work where you need a full show because you've got more tricks under your belt. Now, good relationship with your agent. Of course, if you're working exclusively with one agent, you need a good relationship with them. And family friendly. Most cruises are not adult only. There's a couple of weird ones appearing that are adult only. Don't give me that look, you animals. So, generally, your show must be family friendly. Don't all be looking at me like that. So, weddings is another huge market. Weddings is a ginormous market for circus performers. But it's a really important day. It's not an event you can fuck up at all. If you fuck up a wedding, you're gonna hate yourself for a long time. And so will everyone else. And chances are that bride and groom are just not gonna pay you. So, weddings, you have to know you are super tight in your show. You have to know your show is perfect, down to a T, fully choreographed, and you've got to have all your relationships and everything perfectly in order for that to work. So, weddings, they do an interesting thing because they will search around for their performers. They like the idea of shopping around. You know, it's part of the wedding process is finding all your suppliers and stuff. So it's a little bit of an enjoyable thing for them, is shopping around and finding the right act for them. So they will go direct to you, so having a website is useful for weddings. But they will also go through a lot of agents. Generally with our weddings, again, weddings have your low tier, your mid tier, your high tier. Your mid tier and your low tier will go to smaller agencies. They don't want to work with the really, really big agencies. It's quite rare you'll ever get a wedding booking through someone like Scarlet Entertainment or Contraband. Get paid in advance. That's my number one rule with weddings. get paid in advance, get your money up front. I've done quite a few weddings where after the event, they've had horrible acts. One story in particular, the mother of the bride died a couple of days after the wedding, and they had all the funeral expenses to pay. I felt like a dick asking for that money, and I did not get paid that money for maybe another 7 or 8 months because it was a 2 or 3 grand show. So get paid in advance, then you know you've not got any issues. It's much more difficult taking someone to court or anything like that than you think, and a lot of the time it's not worth your while. If it's just a couple of £100, it's not worth your while taking them to court. But I'll cover that more in contracting and stuff. International work is possible. Your high tier weddings, they will have international events. One big value for money show. So most weddings will request, say, a 20-minute show at the end of a night. So being able to pull your resources together, have a little team of you that can go and do one nice big show is perfect for them. Normally with weddings, you won't get the smaller 5-minute acts. Normally they want a really big show. So something like a big 4-person fire show is a really nice seller for weddings especially. Most of the time with weddings, you've got to realize they've never ever booked entertainment before, and this is probably the first and last time they will ever book entertainment. You do have to walk them through that process a little bit because they don't understand it. They won't understand your requirements like needing a green room. They won't understand the fact that you have to speak to the venue if you're doing an indoor fire show. They won't get that sort of thing. So you have to be quite gentle with them, walking them through the process of how this works. And again, huge range of budgets similar to corporates. What you want to do for weddings is give them a real personal service. So with weddings, try to speak to them on the phone a lot of the time. Try and talk them through the process over the phone, and try and build them a little bit of a bespoke package. Even if you're not actually giving them a bespoke package, you make it sound like it's a bespoke package to them. Since it's a wedding, I've got the perfect thing for you. We've just built this flaming love banner. It'd be perfect for finishing off the fire show. Do you want me to add that in? It'll be an extra £75. And that's a huge seller. That Burning Love banner's been out to like 300 events. It's not anything new, but you make it sound like you could be building it just for them, or you've seen this idea that you're creating just for them. Tailoring things like if they've got a colour scheme for the wedding, tailoring it to their wedding. Even something as they have a purple theme for wedding, you stick a purple cummerbund on, and it costs you a tenner, and all of a sudden you fit their theme. It's a bespoke package then for them. Be the act they fall in love with. This is the best selling point. Basically, you make the act so perfect for them that they cannot not book you. We've got a show called Two Cheeky Monkeys. Who laughed at that? I know it's a terrible name. But we have a roster of about 15 different fire acts that can go into our 45-minute fire show. We give them that as a menu. And we can say, look, you can build the fire act yourself. You choose what acts you want to go into that fire show. I do it on the phone with them, and I help them build that show. I, of course, direct them into booking the exact fire show I want to perform. I, of course, say, no, this is a perfect starter. And, this is beautiful track. This will go perfectly with your wedding. I build it exactly as I want to do it, but I convince them it's what they want to do. That's the sales part of that. And all of a sudden, they've built this bespoke show with you. They've fallen in love with it. They've built this little baby for you. They want it, and no matter what price it is, they have it. So, unique touches, as I said, cummerbunds, different colour, waistcoats, different colour, headpiece that is a lily instead of a daisy or something like that, fit their floral arrangements, do anything you can in that regard. Good phone and email manner is of course needed for every wedding. So just being polite, being respectable, Yes, you can be chummy, but do that later on in the booking process. Try not to be too obscure earlier on. Good relationship with venues. This is something everyone can go out straight away and start doing, is just Googling wedding venues in Bristol and then building a little bit of rapport with each of these venues. If you've been to the venue, you've done a site visit there, you know where your show can work, you know how it would work in that venue, then you've already got a relationship with them. So when they come to you and say, oh, we're doing it at this venue, you go, oh, brilliant, I know the manager, I know exactly where the show will work, here you go, it's already been risk assessed, it's already working perfectly for you. So having a good relationship with your venues is really key for selling weddings. Can be a pain though, because it's a lot of legwork. You've got to, drive around to 300 wedding venues in Bristol doing the exact same thing. Great selling point though, because you can try and sell to the venue while you're there as well. Can be adult friendly, a little bit of a weird one. Most weddings kick the kids out after a certain hour, so you can have swears, you can add in things that are a little bit more adult friendly, but be super certain that there's not going to be any kids there. You don't want to be doing a bit of a risque act and then it turns out there's kids in the audience. Having terrible flashbacks. I once got booked by Chris Madden. I got booked to do a boylesque acrobatic duo act for a woman's birthday party. And she particularly said to him, as naked as possible. Apparently, sarcasm does not come across in email form. So Chris told me this, as naked as possible. Like, all right, first boylesque acrobatic show. I can do this. I can do this. We get there. The ceiling height is lower than this. This is a duo acrobatic act. Finishing trick is, again, standing on head, both juggling knives. There's a little girl sat in the audience, front row, and I noticed all the other children. Yeah. We got out of there pretty sharpishly after doing that. Thankfully, though, I was paid in advance, so I clocked that up to a bad experience of my home. So, again, that's where I also learned, this was 7 years ago, by the way, I learned about pre-event checks of calling the client and going, exactly what it is you booked, and explaining exactly what it is they booked, because wires can get crossed somewhere along the line. Another key point for weddings is being VAT registered is actually a negative most of the time. That's because most wedding clients, most people, they're not going to be VAT registered. And if you are VAT registered, they're going to want you to do some shady dealing, like putting it through their husband's business or something like that. So you just need to be aware that being VAT registered can be a bit of an issue there. With your corporates and things like that, VAT is not an issue. Weddings, it can be a little bit of a sticking point.